in which there is a journey to the town of agony. For the people who loved Luna, time passed in a blur. Luna, however, worried that she might never be 12. Each day felt like a heavy stone to be hoisted to the top of a very tall mountain. In the meantime, each day increased her knowledge. Each day caused the world to simultaneously expand and contract. The more Luna knew, the more she became frustrated by what she did not yet know. She was a quick study and quick-fingered and quick-footed and sometimes quick-tempered. She cared for the goats and cared for the chickens and cared for her grandmother and her dragon and her swamp monster. She knew how to coax milk and gather eggs and bake bread and fashion inventions and build contraptions and grow plants and press cheese and simmer a stew to nourish the mind and the soul. She knew how to keep the house tidy, though she didn't like that job much, and how to stitch birds onto the hem of a dress to make it delightful. She was a bright child, an accomplished child, a child who loved and was loved. And yet, there was something missing, a gap in her knowledge, a gap in her life. Luna could feel it. She hoped that turning 12 would solve this, build a bridge across the gap. It didn't. Instead, once she finally did turn 12, Luna noticed that several changes had begun to occur, not all of them pleasant. She was, for the first time, taller than her grandmother. She was more distractible, impatient, peevish. She snapped at her grandmother. She snapped at her swamp monster. She even snapped at her dragon, who was as close to her heart as a twin brother. She apologized to all of them, of course, but the fact of it happening was itself an irritation. Why was everyone vexing her so? Luna wondered. And another thing, while Luna had always believed that she had read every single book in the workshop, she began to realize that there were several more that she had never read at all. She knew what they looked like. She knew where they sat on the shelf. But try as she might, she could not picture their titles nor remember a single clue as to their contents. And what's more, she found that she could not even read the words on the spines of certain volumes. She should have been able to read them. The words were not foreign, and the letters hooked into one another in ways that ought to have made perfect sense. And yet, every time she tried to look at the spines, her eyes would slide from one side to the other as though they were not made of leather and ink, but of glass slicked with oil. It did not happen when she looked at the spine, The Lives of a Star, and it did not happen when she looked at the beloved copy of Mechanica. But other books, they were as slippery as marbles in butter. And what's more, whenever she reached for one of them, she would find herself unaccountably lost in a memory or a dream. She would find herself going cross-eyed and fuzzy-headed, whispering poetry or making up a story. Sometimes she would regain her senses minutes or hours or half a day later, shaking her head to unaddle her brains and wondering what on earth she had been doing or for how long. She didn't tell anyone about these spells, not her grandmother, not Gulurk, certainly not Therian. She didn't want to worry any of them. These changes were too embarrassing, too strange, and so she kept it secret. Even still, they sometimes gave her strange looks, or odd answers to her questions as if they already knew something was wrong with her. And that wrongness clung to her like a headache that she couldn't shake. Another thing,